Thanks everybody for the 666 donations. I appreciate that. Help in any way you can for us to buy 666 Fifth Avenue. And I know you're thinking there's no way you could afford 666 Fifth Avenue with this podunk little show and all this stuff. Well, I would like to say for the record, neither could Jared Kushner, and that didn't stop him. He couldn't afford it. Oh, bless you. And Norwegian kroner, I think, will absolutely help. Thank you guys so much for the support. So we'll get to those emails. We have a caller on the line. I want to get to him before I get into another, 2666. Rebecca, thank you so much. She doubled it, so she did, but in a better way. 1332, there you go, because of the economy. Who do we have on the line, Lady B?
We have Jim from Chicago.
Excellent. Hey, Jim, welcome.
I'm just thinking about Trump backing Pence for president, how it would be. You think his family would get behind Pence for his run for president? And they'll just go out there and they'll make those big rallies again, and Pence will be out there with a Ku Klux Klan outfit on. I mean, but he's going to run. He's definitely going to run because the money's there for Pence. And I think he's going on a tour. He starts in February. It starts in a couple of months. And
I hear where you're going. I actually don't think Trump's going to run. I think this whole thing is quite frankly a ruse to raise money. Period. End of story. I think he absolutely has no plans of actually running because he'd have to spend that money on a campaign. He'd have to actually dole it out to volunteers and billboards and ads. This way he can just spend it on himself. And then what is his campaign ultimately? Calling into, Joe and Mika again in the morning in his pajamas and having them give him free airtime. You know what I'm saying? Like, there.
Yes. Anyway, thanks, Shel.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Thanks for the call. I actually don't think, I don't buy it. I don't think, I've never really bought that he wanted to win. He looked miserable when he won in 2016. He hated it all the way out the end. He just doesn't like to be a loser. It's too late. He already is. And he's stuck with that forever. Sorry. And somebody in the chat room said 666 Fifth Avenue is cursed. Well, I will roll in there with some sage and fix that with my sunny disposition. Fear not. If anyone can bring sunshine, joy, and love into 666 Fifth Avenue, it's Hal Sparks. Get used to the idea. That's right. I spoke about myself in the third person. You kind of have to be in New York real estate. I'm just kidding. So, So the big story this week, of course, across the right-wing blogosphere, and especially in the panicked corners of YouTube about this, was that in the emails that were released through a FOIA request, there are a bunch of emails sent to Fauci by right-wing scientists, basically the same ones that doubt climate change, the same ones that think that that any form of transgenderism is just a mental illness. There's no reality to it. That think that, more than likely think gays should have been left in the DMSR as a mental illness as well. Like that, they're that kind of scientific crowd. And he's getting emails and these things from physicists who go, I know a thing or two about epidemiology. And in my study, when they're doing mathematical studies on available data within the limited scope of what they're looking at in February at the beginning of this thing. And the same thing that Fauci's saying when he would, like, one of the emails, there's several that they are gotcha-ing. None of them are original. Everybody's kind of doing the same three. There's 3,326 some odd emails. And what happens? The right-wing blogosphere can find 4 that they can convince themselves is an aha. And all of them are, the main ones are from the beginning when everybody had an opinion. People sending emails to him nonstop, 24 hours a day from all over the globe. And at a certain point, his responses are, thanks for your note. And because it's an auto reply, he sets his thing on auto reply, and you can tell the next 13 emails, the dude is sleeping. Thank you, Creative Queen. So you can recognize an auto reply, especially when it happens in the exact same wording multiple times. And then the difference when he's awake and he's like, can someone think about this? Can someone answer this? Can someone deal with this? Or he forwards stuff on to staff when they're dealing with stuff that's legitimate. A good portion of the stuff that's coming in the middle of the night that doesn't get referenced to him again in his morning briefing with the people who are up all night watching the emails because they were working in cycles. They're not bringing him the garbage. They're not going, I don't know if you know this, but there's this physicist friend that believes that God makes the sky mad. And he's one of Kevin McCarthy's constituents. And he wants you to know that he did his own study about hydroxychloroquine. And it's just like, you can just hear the dial tone, just, going through this. So they pick these these main four. The main ones being in the beginning where he's saying about masks. The primary one you'll hear the most is that he wrote early on that masks basically stop you from spreading it, but not you from getting it. The idea being, though, that the people who are asymptomatic, they didn't know at that point how much disease you shed while you were asymptomatic. Right. So you might not think you have it, but you might. And it was in the country longer than, earlier and more widespread than we knew. And as Trump was trying to keep his numbers down by not letting people on a cruise ship come home and not even just going through he didn't want them on the shore, even in isolation. They were going to come off the boat, go straight to rooms, not touch anybody else, be surrounded by people in PPE. And this idiot was like, we've got 64, I don't want it to be 79, right? That was the level of maturity we were dealing with at the time, right? And Fauci in the beginning, this February 4th email that they keep citing was saying to this person, like, I'm going to an airport, should I wear a mask? And he goes, well, it's really more about you spreading it than you getting it, because the particles of this are too small and they go through a regular cloth mask. Well, we now know that can they pass through by size? Yeah. Do they in volume when you're wearing a mask? No. And the severity of disease for a lot of people was caused by the amount of virus they came in contact with. So even wearing neck gaiters, which they said were ineffective because of the porous nature of the cloth, were ultimately effective. Pulling your turtleneck up has value in this situation, because even if you do get it and your immune system has to deal with the infection, you're not dealing with a lot of viral load. And a lot of the people who were frontline workers that we lost, who died because they, even though they were relatively healthy, got an enormous viral load from multiple patients breathing in a small space. And even the masks they were wearing had holes in the sides, and areas and gaps between the skin and face that they were able to get into, and it killed people. We now know this. There have been a multitude of studies since February 4th, since that email from Dr. Fauci, that specifically said, we've looked into it, and it absolutely slows the spread. And it absolutely lowers mortality because of the amount of disease that you take in. Like somebody in the chat room was like, damn, I forgot about the cruise ship BS. Right. I mean, think back. I mean, we all focused on, stick a light bulb up your keister and gargle some bleach, and maybe there's a way to get disinfectant in your lungs. People drinking fish tank cleaner because it was another form of chloroquine, and it was the only thing they could get their hands on. And the president said it works, so let's give it a shot.
That one really bummed me out.
Yeah.
Most people died.
Yeah. And I think the wife was in critical. Did she ultimately die? I know that her husband did.
think just the husband died.
That's right. But Kale Link is saying, I've been pulling out my turtlenecks for years. I'm a real Bazooka Joe. Well, maybe that's why you don't catch the flu. But the point is that between, Fauci and all scientists operate on the best information we have and the most caution we can actually express without causing a panic. And then the most caution that's actually functional in terms of, if I warn you about this, will it actually help? Will it deter your behavior? Will I warn you about malls, but you'll go to airports? If I warn you about crowded places, what do you think a crowded place is? You can be in a small, like a tight group of people in the park when it's really spreading around, and a lot of people have it asymptomatically and are spreading it a lot. And not enough people are vaccinated or have had that particular strain, and therefore it's still bouncing around, where you're like, we were outside. And then you get a lot of people at picnics and And, you know, they were breaking up weddings in parks because of that very reason. And that turned out to be because a lot of older people who were going to these things thinking artificially they were safe because they weren't indoors in a crowded area were dying.
Yeah.
And yeah, like the thing that I keep going back to is we did. We got to take a break. I'll deal with this on the other side. There's one aspect of this, and I've never heard a right winger be able to answer it. And I'm curious if somebody could. 773-763-9278. We'll be back right after this.